Welcome to another edition of From Beyond Champaign. I'm Cody. You can follow me on all the social platforms, and apparently TikTok is back after, 12-hour layoff. Not even, actually. You can follow me there. You can follow me on all the platforms, like I said, at Cody_CHGO. Welcome to the Illini therapy session. There's a lot to take in from this one. It wasn't a bad loss. It wasn't it wasn't something I feel disappointed about. I'm angry about a few things, but I think my biggest takeaway from this one is that I actually feel really good about Illinois moving forward. But in the moment, as soon as the game was over, I was furious. I was ready to go jump in the lake, all right, in the 5-degree weather that we have, right? I'm like 15-minute walk from the lake. I was like, man, I should go jump in the lake. I'm so angry right now. So that's kind of why I didn't start right up. But I'm also, I'm looking at the big picture, and we can talk about that. But let's just do reactions first. Let's do reactions first, because this is what we're here for. We got to get this all out, okay? We got to get this all out. Illinois loses 80-78 on the road at Michigan State. They had every chance to win the game. Despite the fact that Kasparas Jakucionis played 9 minutes. 9 minutes. They had every chance to win the game, despite the fact that Kasparas Jakucionis played 9 minutes. Because of the refs decided to make the game about them. And it's weird because I wouldn't say the calls were so atrocious that it reminded me like the law, they won. Doesn't remind me like when they won the bragging rights game. Like Illinois should have won by double digits against Mizzou, but because of all the fouls that the refs called, Illinois won by one possession, right? There were a ton of fouls called in that game. In this game, would I say that it was totally one-sided? No. Like, I feel like in the bragging rights game, I think that Mizzou had 10 more free throw attempts than Illinois, 10 or 15. In this one, they both shot 27 free throws. So I'm not mad at the refs, or I'm not even going to blame the refs for losing this game. But they clearly were just looking at Kasparas Jakucionis this entire game when he was out there, and they were ready to put him on the bench at any chance they could. That's what it felt like. 2 fouls in 3 minutes. 2 fouls. Not even 3 minutes. 17:09 is when he picked up the second foul? 2 fouls in 3 minutes, though. 2 fouls in 3 minutes in the first half, and he picked up his 4th foul before even the 15-minute mark in the second half. And the 4th one was egregious. If you would take the 3rd one and said, hold my beer, give me a worse foul call, it was that one. Because the 3rd foul call was on an offensive rebound that got called against him because the Michigan State player stepped on his foot. What? They were both play on moments. The refs should have never called or blew the whistle for Kasparas' 3rd or 4th fouls. At the very least, they never should have blew the whistle for either one of those. Okay. But again, like I said, I'm not blaming the refs for the reason you lost this game. Michigan State had 27 free throw attempts. Illinois had 27 free throw attempts. Illinois missed 10 free throws, though. Michigan State, 21 for 27. Illinois could have won this game despite the refs putting Kasparas on the bench and having him foul out with 6.5 minutes to go. How incredible of a feeling would it have been to beat the refs and the team again like you did against Mizzou? How incredible would have that felt? I would have been insufferable for 24 hours. Absolutely. Because the way they blew the whistle against Kasparas, who was far and away the best player on the court, It ruined what should have been an incredible game. And it was. It still managed to be an incredible game. 80-78, Big Ten matchup, a huge crowd. You got the student section out there being what I always think about what a tough road environment is in college basketball. It was way better in terms of a road environment. It was way more intimidating than when Illinois went to USC, or not USC, went to Oregon or Washington. It was so much more intimidating than any of those two experiences. It was even more intimidating than going to Indiana. Maybe that was because Illinois just came out and just steamrolled early. And I felt like Illinois was on path of doing that early in this game because Will Riley had 16 points the first 10 minutes of the game. But the longer you go without your best player, the more holes the other team will find in your game without him. Like, we know this. We know that Illinois is significantly better with Kasparas out there, right? We know this. That doesn't take a genius. You could be a real casual fan and you could tell how much better Illinois is with Kasparas Jakucionis on the court than without, right? But early on, despite those fouls, Will Riley carried them a little bit, right? It was a tie game at halftime. I think Illinois led by as much as 10, 11 points. So, sure, I could be a little annoyed that you couldn't hold that big lead, but Michigan State's good, man. What? They had won 10 in a row coming into this game. I'm not going to sit here and make the case that Tom Izzo paid the refs, or I'm not going to be that meatball fan today. But what bothers me is this was a great game, but it could have been even better if the refs didn't put control into how Brad Underwood had to manage Kasparas Jakucionis' minutes, because he for sure would have played at least 30 minutes in this one. At least. Okay? If the foul trouble wasn't there. And I will for sure make the case that 2 of those 5 fouls were terrible. Admittedly, the first 2 that happened in the first half, I didn't even see because I probably was looking at my phone or something. I need to go back and look and find those. But either way, for someone of his caliber, someone of his talent that we have seen throughout the country, for the refs to basically put their eye on him and find a reason to call a foul no matter what he did, that just ruins what could have been a great game, in my opinion. That's just the way I feel about it, man. That's just the way I feel about it. I understand that a lot of fans right now are probably blaming the refs, and that's fine. If you want to be that guy, more power to you. I try my best to not blame the refs, but I don't think I can necessarily blame the refs for this loss today, because you still had the same amount of free throw attempts as Michigan State. You just didn't make them, right? You just didn't make them. You had more turnovers than them. And you shot 5 for 24 from 3. As we've discussed all season long, when Illinois doesn't make threes, they're going to be in these types of games where it's going to be back and forth and it's going to be close. I'm just saying that I think you can for sure make the case in the game against Mizzou that game should have been a bigger margin of victory if the refs didn't call the game the way they did. In this one, I just don't understand why they just had their eyes locked on Kasparas Jakucionis and no one else. I mean, I guess Will Riley, he picked up his 4th foul with around 12 minutes to go. Right? And I think that's what kind of led to Michigan State going on that little bit of a run. They went on a run there between the 10 and 7 minute mark. That's when Kasparas came back into the game, got them back into the game within a possession almost immediately, and then picked up the 5th foul. And I will say, hand up, the 5th foul, it was the guy he was guarding pump faked, went up. Kasparas was right there. He hit him. I felt like I've seen that foul called 1,000, maybe a million times at this point in my life. I think that fifth foul was fine. It was a correct call, but it didn't have to be that. It shouldn't have been that. The ticky-tack calls they made on Kasparas in this game are it makes you scratch your head, and it makes you wonder, like, why do you guys have to do this? I mean, the fourth one, Kasparas is on the ground and they're calling a foul on him. The third one, like I said, it's the guy going up for an offensive rebound, and Kasparas is called for a foul because that guy from Michigan State stepped on his foot. Give me a break. Give me a break. I could go on and on and on and on and on. I really could, because this game should have been better than it was. It should have been. And I will say, again, not blaming the refs, but I will say that if Kasparas plays over half of this game, Illinois probably wins. I have no reason to really prove it, but Kasparas could be a lottery pick. He's going to be a lottery pick. He was far and away the best player on the court for the 9 minutes that he played. Far and away. So, yeah, because of that, I think that they probably win the game. I don't think I'm crazy for saying that. It is what it is. I've had this stream scheduled for the last couple hours. So we got some comments in here from right after the game, I think. Let's go with them, and then we'll move on. If you're here, hit the like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts on this game. All right. It's me says, can tell Brad is pissed about the officiating in the post game. Can't wait till they come to our house. Yeah, I was listening to the post game. And Brad specifically mentioned the fourth foul and said that it was terrible. Basically, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was very clear that he hated the fourth foul call on Kasparas. And yeah, I mean, I was surprised that Brad didn't get thrown out of this one. He did get a technical foul called. I mean, he said in postgame as well that it was on the bench, not necessarily him. So I don't remember. They showed it on the broadcast of, just the coaching staff doing what coaching staff does in emotional moments, pointing, yelling. Who knows? I'd have to go back and watch it and see, get a real opinion on it. But I was surprised that Brad didn't get tossed out of this game. If it would have been me, I would have got tossed out after the fourth foul, personally. I don't think I would have been able to hold it in because it was atrocious. It was atrocious. Jay says, can you believe that game? What a joke. Have been watching college buckets since 1989. That was the worst Homer zebra striped calls of all time. 3 BS foul calls on KJ and numerous others. Joke. I hear you, Jay. I absolutely hear you, man. I hear you. And maybe I'm not being rough enough. Maybe I'm not. I don't know. It's not like when I'm sitting on the couch watching the game that I'm watching every single foul call and I'm putting that in my head. I'm like, I have to remember that moment when I go and talk about this. But again, both teams had the same amount of free throw attempts, and maybe there were some no calls in there that didn't go Illinois' way that I could complain about. Maybe there should have been less foul calls on other guys outside of KJ. I don't know, man. But all I know is that the foul calls on KJ for sure were bad. They were bad. Jay also says it was getting comical on how one-sided it was. Crazy and still about one. I know. I hate that I have to have this moral victory feeling. That's the thing too. I think I'm more mad about having to have a moral victory feeling. Illinois should have won this game. Is this the biggest should have won? Is this bigger than Northwestern or Tennessee? They should have won. They should have beat Northwestern because, as we've seen, Northwestern isn't that good, right? Tennessee, number 1 team in the country at the time, on your home floor. Their 2 best players fouled out, right? Should have won that game. They should have won the game, right? This one feels like that in a way. But I'm also thinking, would I be this upset if you didn't lose to USC? If they beat USC last week, I probably am in the moment for sure very upset and pissed off of how the refs blew the whistle against Kasparas. But you asked me a week ago before the USC loss, I'm like, you beat USC and then you at least split against Indiana and Michigan State. I would have taken that a week ago if you beat USC. But you lost to USC, and I came into this week thinking you got to win both. Even though they're on the road, you got to win both. And they won big at Indiana. And to me, like, they played great despite the conditions and the effects of what happened with Kasparas and the foul trouble. They lost by 2. And they were right there at the end. Kylan he makes the first free throw and gets the perfect bounce. I don't think you could have asked for a better bounce off the rim. And Merez just couldn't get it like cleanly. And then apparently you can't shoot the ball over the basket. I feel like I saw Kobe Bryant do that in an NBA game once. In the way back in the day. I feel like there's a highlight of Kobe Bryant making a basket, shooting it from behind the backboard. Apparently in college hoops, you can't do it. Whatever. They were right there. They had every chance to win. But to me, free throws is why they lost this game. Brad said as much. There was some stretches in the game that perhaps, if you want me to criticize Brad, probably should have brought KJ back in earlier. Just because, like, you were at a point where you had to. You just had to. Right before they brought him back in, they probably should have brought him in around that 9 or 8 minute mark, right? They waited until I believe it was around the 7 minute mark. I'll go and look it up real quick. When did they bring him back in? Kasparas 7:46. Kylan missed a 3-point jumper. Official TV timeout. That's when Kasparas came back in, was at the 7:37 mark. And when he came back in, it was 66-59. Or no, 60. It was 65-59. They came back out, and Jeremy Fears made a free throw, and then Kasparas, he got them back in the game immediately. Hit a layup and won. They forced a turnover the next play down. And Kasparas hit Tommy with a layup to go on a nice 5-0 run there, right? And they were right there within 2 points. And then the foul on Kasparas the following trip down. So it went from being a 6-point deficit to a 1-possession game that fast with Kasparas on the court. And he was in no rhythm of this game there because he was on the bench for all of it. That's how impressive he is. That's how good he is. Brad said so many good things about him in postgame, despite the fact that he played 9 minutes. Basically argued that he's the best point guard in the country. But again, if you want me to criticize Brad a little bit here, they brought Kasparas back in at the 7:37. I think you can make the argument they should have brought him back in maybe a minute earlier. It was, I would say, Illinois at the 10:52 mark. Illinois led 58-57. And then that's when Michigan State went on that run, basically. So I would say somewhere in that 10 to 8 minute mark, they probably should have brought Kasparas back in. He'd been sitting on the bench for like 6 minutes at that point. 4 fouls or not, you probably should have brought him back in a minute earlier to not let it get to a 6-point deficit. But, I felt like the effort from everyone on this team today was awesome. I feel like Brad said in post game that Isevich had strep throat and he was out there given everything he could. And I felt like him, that dunk he had to start the game, and then Humrickhouse hitting that three was a sign that like Illinois came to play. And it was an 11 a.m. tip. You know what I think about 11 a.m. tips with this program, right? I felt like they came out aggressive, and they came out and made a statement like, "Hey, we're here, we're playing today." And yeah, they just couldn't get over the hump. And on top of the fact that they couldn't hit any threes, I think if they would have made a few more threes, you made some of their free throws, they win this game. Yeah. The fact that the free throw shooting, as I've said a lot doing the show the last year and a half, the free throw shooting, when they miss free throws, man, it's agonizing because they're free. And they have a lot of good shooters. There's a reason that they shoot a ton of threes, because they have a lot of good shooters. So when you are at the free throw line, you should be making your free throws. Sorry. I felt like the three biggest free throws that were missed. Will Riley, once he came back into the game, let's go back to it. I'm bringing it up on ESPN right now. I'm trying to remember the minutes where he missed two free throws. He missed two free throws in that final 5 minutes, I want to say. Yes, at the 4:13 mark, Illinois, Will Riley got a foul on Jaden Akins. It was 7. Going to drop. All right, we're back. For the few of you that stuck around, my internet, I don't know what's going on with my Google Chrome. I had to restart my MacBook Air. So if you stuck around, thank you. Let's see if we can get through the rest of the show. I don't know what's going on with my internet today, but it's also like 5 degrees outside. Maybe that has something to do with it. I Okay. I can't believe people are still here. We still got 8 people here. I appreciate y'all. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. My internet, I had to reboot it and everything. We've just been live here. So this will be a funny one to come back to and watch. Maybe I can edit out all the technical difficulties. It's different whenever it's just one person doing it, right? I'd never have this kind of technical difficulties. It's a very rare thing to happen. So I appreciate y'all for sticking around and waiting for me to come back. But I think I was talking about Will Riley. He missed those 2 free throws at the 4:13 mark. And then Michigan State went down, hit a jumper, moved it to 74-67. He came back, hit that layup, and made a free throw on the and one to get it to, I believe it was 74-69. But again, it could have been 74-71. I'm just saying, like, it's little things like that. Merez Johnson, he had a chance at the 129 mark after he got fouled by Akins, where he could have made it a tie ball game at 76 all with 1:30 to go. So with 90 minutes, Illinois had a chance to tie the ball game, and they just never got there. That's it. I just think missed free throws were such a big part of this game, and it is what it is. So we got some other chats here. Let's get to them while I kind of recuperate here. I can't believe that we went through those internet troubles, man. Let's see. John says, do I think any players are on the I don't know what you mean by that, John. Jay says 3 phantom calls versus KJ, numerous 4 or 5 other late whistle calls were BS, and Izzo cries, and the turn of ball going to Illinois goes to Michigan State. It's a joke. Izzo cries and gets calls. I mean, I won't lie. It's always a form of just chef's kiss. I guess that's the best way I can say it. It's always chef's kiss when he cries and Michigan State loses. But I didn't see a lot of crying from Izzo today. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. Maybe I was too freaking mad about how Kasparas Jakucionis was screwed by the refs today. So I don't know. Illinois bench gets a T, and Izzo can cry and go nuts, yet never gets a T. It's a joke. College bucket sometimes. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just part of the home court advantage in college hoops, because I can't sit here and say we've never seen Brad go nuts before. And I was surprised we didn't see Brad go more nuts in relation to some of the calls that went against KJ. But he said some things in postgame that made you feel like he was very frustrated about it. But yeah. Brian and Jill here in the chat. Another foul and another foul and another foul. I get it, man. I absolutely get it. I get it. I'm very frustrated with this one. Absolutely. And y'all you can tell me all about it in the comments, man. I don't disagree at all about how the refs kind of dictated how this game was going to go today, but I still feel like Illinois had a chance to win this game, and I can't put everything on the refs. So I think that the Merez Johnson missed free throw that could have tied the game, and Will Riley missing some big free throws down the stretch were big. You want to talk about the last play before Illinois had to foul, right? We can do that. I thought Kylan had some big buckets down the stretch in that last minute and a half. We can go to after the Merez Johnson missed free throw, right? Michigan State gets the defensive rebound. They hit a jumper with 1:14 to go. It's 78-75. So if Merez hits that and Will Riley hits that, hits those 2 free throws, we're talking that's 3-point difference right there, right? That's why I'm thinking about those free throws. What do you call it? Kylan came back down, next time down, hit and drove to the basket, hit a layup. I felt like he was so big for Illinois today, despite the conditions. Michigan State missed with 31 seconds to go. They got an offensive rebound, missed another jumper. They had two chances to push it to a 3-point game. It was 78-77. So Illinois got Merez Johnson, huge rebound. He rebounded the ball a ton today. It was huge for them off the bench. Johnson gets that rebound. They go down. Kylan, they had ran this play, and Brad said as much in postgame, like that they ran that pick and roll, the drag, whatever you want to call it. Kylan drove, and watching the replay, I felt like Kylan should have just tried to take the layup. And if he gets blocked, he gets blocked. But they didn't get a shot off. He tried to pass it off. I believe it was Isevich that would have been the one who would have got the ball. And he just couldn't handle it, and out of bounds. So it was a turnover. If we could run that back, I just would have liked to see Kylan take the ball up. I think that's the only thing that I don't have a problem with that play call. Like at that point in the game with who was on the court, like I would want the ball in the most experienced guy's hands. I don't like Will Riley in ISO. I like Will Riley whenever he gets the ball coming off a pick, or if like the very first play of the game with Will Riley, they went to him in that high post and he just kind of, went to work from there. And I was like, we need to see more of that, like they ran a set specifically for him and at his first shot of the game, right? At that point in the game, though, at the very end, I want the ball in Kylan Boswell's hands. He's the guy. If it's not KJ, if he's out, then I want the ball in Kylan's hands. He drove the basket, tried to, hit Tommy on that pick and roll, and it just didn't work out. And if I could go back, I wish that maybe Kylan would have just put that ball up. And who knows, if it goes in, it goes in, right? And Illinois would have led. They would have taken the lead with 5 seconds to go if he takes it up. Instead, it's a turnover. They have to foul. Trey Holloman hits both free throws. It's 80-79 or 80-77. Michigan State fouls up 3, which I think is a good coaching decision, honestly, by Tom Izzo. And yeah, so Kylan makes the first free throw, and it's a 2-point game. There's 3 seconds? 3 seconds. And oh man, I keep thinking back to it. Like I felt like the bounce was it benefited Illinois so well, because sometimes they don't hit the rim and it board and it goes away, like it doesn't count. Or sometimes guys accidentally make it. Like the bounce was perfect. The way Kylan shot it and everything, it was perfect. And it just Merez couldn't get the ball. I was just, oh man. They were that close. I guess that's the point. They were that close to somehow pulling that game out. If they just a couple other different things go differently. I felt like shot selection in the last 10 minutes of the game, especially before Kasparas came back on the floor, was not good. And it was, in a way, they weren't considered turnovers, but they were basically giving possessions away. There was a possession where Tommy took a quick 3. I thought Rickhouse took a quick 3 during a half-court possession. I thought Kylan took one of those like step-back jumpers from the 3-point line. They just weren't moving the ball. And that's when that's why I said at certain points they needed to bring KJ back in. So, yeah, it was just, there were some stretches. And they go through those stretches when KJ's not on the court. That's literally it. It really is. And so that's why it's so frustrating about KJ being in foul trouble today. And to me, it's dictating how the game goes. And that's what's most frustrating. That's why some people in the YouTube chat here are frustrated and pissed off. And like, I don't blame you. I really don't. So anyway, I've done my complaining. I went through some moments in this game. You want to look big picture now? We can look big picture. All right. Big picture. Illinois has Maryland at home next week. They got Northwestern at home. So they got Maryland at home next Thursday. Then they get Northwestern at home, and then they go to Nebraska to close out January. I asked for 7-3. I asked for 7-3 in January, and when I said it, I thought that was too optimistic. they have a chance to say, hold my beer, Cody, and go 8-2. So do I think Illinois should win the next 3? They definitely should win their next 2 at home. Like, I don't think they can afford to lose to Maryland. Maryland has also been their kryptonite in the past. And I just coming off these 2 games, and now you go home. You got 4 days to prepare for Maryland at home at an 8 o'clock game on FS1 this coming Thursday. I think that's a game you got to come out and own. And Maryland hasn't been very good on the road this year. Northwestern, we've seen them. They're 11-6. They're not that good, man. They're just not that good. And listen, I want revenge for that game. They should have beat Northwestern in Evanston, right? So to me, they're going to get revenge. If you want me to predict, I think beating Northwestern is one they absolutely should win. I think that you get Maryland at home. Despite the past, I feel like you should be okay there because going to Maryland is tough, but you should be able to beat Maryland at home. And it's an 8 o'clock game. It's not one of those like early tip-offs that I feel like they've played in Maryland in the past. Now, going to Nebraska the last day of January 30th, for a 7:30 game on a Thursday night, that one will be tough. Going to Nebraska will be tough. Nebraska's played well, and they beat UCLA at home. I know UCLA's kind of not lived up to anyone's expectations, but that team should be better than what it is. Mick Cronin saying some crazy things to the media these last couple losses that he's had. I don't know. But I did say 7-3. I said 7-3 was what I was or 7-2. I said 7-2 was what I was hopeful for. They got 9 games here in January. I was hopeful for 7-2. They can still do it. They can win these next 3 games and finish 7-2. If it's 6-3, fine. If it's 6-3, fine. I can live with 6-3. But I think this month, this USC loss is going to loom large in terms of winning the Big Ten. I still think they're in it. They're definitely still in it. You know, as we sit here right now, we can look at the standings a little bit. Let me turn on the old Wi-Fi on my iPad. I turned it off because I was all messed up. But I think the standings, you know, Michigan losing to Minnesota was huge, right? I think this loss against Michigan State could loom large, but you do get another shot at them in February. So it's not the end of the world. It just feels like a game you should have won. I think that's the biggest thing that most of us feel right now. It's like they should have won this game, whether they had KJ or not. And if I'm a Michigan State fan, I'm probably a little worried right now after that game. You know, it's their 11th in a row. Most fans are probably content, but like Illinois' best player was on the bench the entire game and you only won by 2. I don't know. I feel like I should be a little bit concerned. You know what I mean? So trying to load the standings here. They're not loading for me. Ugh. Try on my. Here we go. Here we go. We got it. All right. So as of right now, Illinois is 2.5 games back in the Big Ten at 5-3. They're 5-3 in the Big Ten. Wisconsin at 5-2 ahead of them. Michigan 5-1. Purdue 7-1, and then Michigan State 7-0. This is what you know, how the refs dictating this game today. This is what it did to the Big Ten standings. I guess the biggest question is, how many fans watching the show or just Illini fans in general do you think care about winning the Big Ten? I care. I'd like to put a banner up, right? I do look at March as something that I care about more in general because I think Brad needs more success there for him to get more respect. But yeah, I care about winning the Big Ten. I do. I really do. And you could have been 6-2. Could have been 6-2 and right there ahead of Wisconsin and probably, I guess you would have been behind Michigan since they only have 1 loss, but you'd have more wins than them. So I guess you'd basically be tied. You'd be right there. You'd be right there in the mix. You're still in the mix. still in the mix. You're going to need Michigan State to start losing some games in conference. You're going to need Purdue to start losing some games as well. Purdue's played really well of late. I haven't slept on them at all, but I don't know. We'll see. We will see what will happen. But anyway, I've done enough rambling. Illinois loses 80-78. I'm interested in y'all's thoughts. I'll read the comments for this one here over the next couple days and try and reply to some of y'all in the YouTube comments. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I appreciate y'all hanging around and continuing to wait for me to come back the few times. But yeah, Will Riley, probably the biggest thing from today's game. I'm optimistic about him moving forward. I love the way they got him going today. They ran some sets for him. He got some drives to the baskets. And then he started hitting that outside shot too, which is huge. They need Will Riley to be like what he was today. I don't know if you need him to fill it up like he did in the first half, 16 points in like 10 minutes. I don't know if I can, if I should start relying on that, but they just need him to be a presence. I thought he was more than a presence today, and he's a big reason why Illinois didn't get blown out with KJ and all that foul trouble. So he deserves a lot of credit, and I'm optimistic about him moving forward. I've been optimistic about him, but I've also, had a lot of concerns. So I think Will Riley is definitely my player of the game for this one. Merez Johnson continues to just be a positive player, just rebounds the ball and plays great defense. Just keep doing that. Merez is going to be awesome in year 2. If he's here next year, I can't wait for him to be a starter on this team next year. Trey White, quiet game is what it is. Maybe you probably should have got more from Trey White today. Maybe it wasn't a good matchup for him, but he was pretty quiet today. Missed 2 free throws as well. He got fouled on that 3. They had a wasted possession, basically. He got fouled shooting a 3-point shot. And they totally bailed him out. And he missed 2 of the 3 free throws. That's 2 points right there that you could have had. This is why I can't blame the refs for losing this game. It's just situations like that. So you got to make free throws on the road. If you're going to win on the road in the Big Ten, you got to make free throws. You missed 10. Missed 10 of them. You still have more turnovers than them too. So on top of the fact that your best player was in foul trouble. So you can survive if you can do 2 of those 3 things, I think. If KJ got in foul trouble and you didn't turn the ball over more than them and you didn't miss 10 free throws, I think you win the game. I really do. So, again, it is what it is. We'll try and bounce back against Maryland next Thursday. Perhaps we'll be back before Thursday. We'll see. But I am my big brain thinking moving forward thought is that you lost by 2 on the road at Michigan State, number 12 team in the country. Feel good about Maryland next Thursday. I really do. I think this team will bounce back in a big way against Maryland. So hold me accountable on it. Let me know if I'm wrong on it when we get there. But yeah, just brutal loss, but I'm feeling good about the future. So let me know what y'all think. Illinois loses 80-78. Brutal. But I'm feeling good moving forward. We'll see you on the next one. I appreciate your support. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe to the podcast. We're now on Apple, by the way. Now on Apple. So subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll see you in the next episode. It means a lot that you're all here. All right. IL.